Hey guys, Doctor Who here with 1HP, and in this video I talk with Christian Hasty, or as you guys know him as Snood, the professional Fortnite player for Ghost Gaming, because I worked with him to address a hand and wrist injury that affected his ability to coordinate his hand and wrist for building and playing the game. And in this video we're going to be going over the details of his case, what we found, and how I helped him go from playing 5 hours with pain and poor coordination to 12 hours 3 days in a row at the Winter Royale with no pain and full coordination. Let's get to it. Hello everyone, thanks for tuning into this episode. I'm here with Christian, or Snood, and he's been nice enough to agree to go over some of the details of a case that I worked with him on to help him manage some wrist pain and coordination issues. So yeah, this is Christian. And maybe Christian, if you could start by helping us paint a picture of what you've been dealing with, and maybe just to step back or zoom out, tell us who you are, what game you play, a brief overview or whatever, however much depth you want to go into about what you were dealing with, and then definitely what your main concern was. And maybe I'll just follow up with any questions if we missed some stuff.
Okay, yeah. So, as he told you, I'm Snood. Pro Fortnite player for Ghost Gaming, and basically, I hit Matthew up to try to help me with my wrist problems, which it works. But so basically, I had issues in my wrist where I didn't really feel confident in moving them. Really, I felt kind of like the nerves weren't really working properly, and I just didn't have the right endurance. So I just basically did some wrist exercises, and he just helped me basically fix everything.
What do you think was your main concern when you reached out to me? Was it pain? Was it the lack of control? Or was it, what, out of all those things, what do you think was the main issue?
I would say probably the lack of control and the inconsistency in my performance, because there was some days where I would just wake up and I'd be perfectly fine, and then there was days where I felt like I was just basically like a bot and I couldn't really do anything.
Yeah, for sure. And were you thinking a lot about the next FNCS at the time, or even Winter
Yeah,
Royale, right? Hey, I want to
yeah.
be doing well here. Was that sort of one of the main reasons why you actually wanted to get some help?
Yeah, definitely. It was about 2 weeks or a week and a half before Winter Royale, and that was when it was really bad. So I just came to you to basically make sure I performed well in Winter Royale.
Gotcha. Okay, so just to provide a overview from my perspective, on the first day, which was December 5th, we met around 2:30, and you told me on that day that you were probably at a 60% in terms of your ability to perform, or ability to coordinate, or manage your aim, or even building. And it was, just to be clear, primarily on your left hand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then your right hand was a little inconsistent in terms of the pain, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then, so what I found during the initial evaluation was, and will call this P1, his left side, he had a little bit of aching on his palm side, and he rated it at a 2 out of 10. But as he said, the main concern that he has was his coordination, or his ability to effectively press his keybinds, as well as coordinate within game for the things that he needed to do. He started in the morning at a 7 out of 10 of coordination, and after 5 hours, he said that it was roughly a 4 out of 10. And then we also found P2, which is his right hand, and this was a little more inconsistent, and it wasn't really a main concern, but he would sometimes feel a 1 out of 10 of discomfort. And the main things, of course, that caused him to feel this was playing more, right? Kovacs for 30 minutes, pain began to set in, and then 5 hours, you would begin to feel 3 out of 10 of pain, and then the coordination would reduce from 7 to 4. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and then why don't you go over sort of what your practice schedule was at the time? So maybe on a
Um,
match day versus a regular weekday.
yeah, so on the weekdays, it was basically just me waking up. I did about 45 minutes total of just Kovacs and playground and just warming up and for Fortnite. And then I would do around 5 to 6 hours of scrims, depending on if it died early or not. And then during a match day, I would try to do over an hour of warming up, just like probably like 30 minutes of Kovacs, then like 45 minutes of playground or box fights and stuff like that. And then I would just play for however long the tournament is.
Nice. Okay. And then you also told me you do exercise, and I remember this was amazing because you did 100 push-ups and 100 pull-ups on a daily basis. So I think that actually sets you aside from a lot of other players in that you actually still get a lot of activity. And I think doing the pull-ups itself too might have already helped maintain some form of endurance for your wrist and forearm because you're holding your body weight up and pulling. So I thought that was great. I just wanted to put that out there for everyone else too. Getting some movement and getting some exercise will go a long way into just providing you with some better overall health. So on the first day, we are able to identify those pain patterns, but the actual source of the pain that we identified for his left hand was this small muscle or group of tendons, or basically one muscle called the flexor digitorum profundus, and it was a tendon issue. And it was the same thing on his right. He also had what we call de Quervains, and they're both tendon issues that absolutely affect our coordination and ability to maintain fine motor control, especially when there's inflammation of the tendon or the sheath surrounding it. And so if the tendon isn't able to slide well due to swelling, or then there's poor overall control with obviously his ability to move. So that's definitely why you began to feel that sensation over time. And I know you even had physical therapy beforehand too, right? Yeah, and I know after you completed it, you said it was like at 80%, and then you might have tapered off a little bit with exercises. Yeah? Okay. So just to review, I think you had been dealing with this for 8 months too. So this isn't something that was more acute in nature. It's kind of been it was kind of on and off.
Yeah. So I guess I feel like the physical therapy helped a lot, but it was just like the consistency. I didn't get as much consistency as I thought I would, so I just like kind of stopped.
For sure. Okay, and so that was the source of the pain. So now we know that it's tendon related, and after we did a lot of testing, we were able to identify the cause. So I looked at his posture and ergonomics. Fortunately, he's great with that. He didn't have any major issues with those. And then I looked into his endurance. So I asked him to do some wrist extension exercise specific to a cadence of 50 beats per minute. And we were able to, it's a standardized test that I have. And we found that for his left hand, he began to feel some weakness or soreness at around 30 repetitions, and then he was able to complete about 67 total. But for his right hand, he only began to feel soreness at 43 repetitions, able to easily finish 60. So for most people, I expect them to be able to finish 60 no problem when you have no issues at all. And there was definitely this apparent difference in his endurance from right to left. So his left was 30 when he began to feel soreness, and his right was 43. So there was definitely a big difference there. And then the other component that I really wanted to look into was coordination. So I asked him to come up with this test. And I don't know if did you ever record it?
I think I might have clipped it a while ago. I don't know if I have it anymore though, but I can just
yeah, it might be cool to just create it, and we'll leave like the link in the description for anyone that wants to do like a coordination test and just do exactly what you did. So we'll try that if you're open to that. And then yeah, so we looked into that, and I wanted to get that test, which was having you hop into creative, building from floor to the ceiling of the creative map or creative room, or basically free build, and then kind of identify 0 to 10 what's your level of coordination or ability to handle all the edits and all the building all the way up to the ceiling or the height limit. And yeah, we wanted to use that test over time too, to compare So we identified that. And then the last and other most important thing that we looked at was schedule management, which is why I wanted to understand what you were doing on a regular basis in terms of practice, right? Because at the time, did you feel like you were mindful about how much you were playing and how that affected, I don't know, maybe your pain or body?
Honestly, I wasn't really thinking about it too much because I was so used to just playing like 8 hours a day, like 9 hours a day. So when I have these issues, I don't really think about it, and I just still try to do the same thing without noticing how it'll affect me.
For sure. So what do you feel like were some of the main things that help you understand, at least from this first visit?
Definitely like to know when to stop playing. That definitely helped a lot.
Yeah.
Because once I started like getting really, really sore, I would just stop playing, and it helped. It just helped not make it worse, really.
Good, good. Um, Anything else from the first day?
I just had like a better overall understanding of why my wrists were like that. I
Mhm.
knew that it was an endurance issue, not really like some serious thing, or just like carpal tunnel or something like that.
Right, right. Good, good.
So it was very relieving to know that it was just, like I could fix it with just doing exercises and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's a good segue because after we did all the assessment, we ended up, I provided you with this program, and we'll just quickly review the program. But basically, the exercises that I included were some dumbbell exercises, some extension, some flexion. We used a little digiflex. Maybe you can show them what that looks like. Do you have it?
Yeah, I have it right here. So it's
Yeah,
basically just like,
yeah, that, and we because that works specifically on the muscle that we want him to develop in terms of endurance, along with the dumbbell exercises. Those are all additive in helping him develop some endurance. Um, we also did some I also added some posture stuff just in case, because a lot of the times if you position your shoulders well, then the muscles at your forearms don't fatigue as easily. Um, and then I think the most important, like you said, was I included a schedule to guide you in making decisions on, all right, well, if I feel after I'm playing for 5 hours, if I feel a 3 out of 10 of pain, then I can keep going. But if I feel more than a 3 out of 10 of soreness or discomfort or whatever, then that's your cue to stop. So that was a main guide, and I've written and posted about this before, but that helps you gradually build up your endurance over time if you're actively conditioning your wrists, like with an exercise routine that I provided you.
yep.
I guess just as a side note too, how did you feel about the warm-up routine, the
Um,
actual physical warm-up routine?
oh, just like the exercises and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
It was actually really good, honestly, because I was just worried about like me if I did it, it would just make me a little bit like fatigued, I guess. But it didn't really do that. It kind of just warmed up my wrists and my forearms and stuff, and it actually helped me.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And did you do any of so I know I also added some stretches to do like after your games. Did you do individual stretches, or did you follow some of the routines that I posted in the sort of our document?
I just really did the stretches that we went over, and I just did those in between every single game, mostly.
Awesome, awesome. When did you do your exercises typically?
Um, I'd probably do it right after I showered, because that's when I would like, I don't know, I feel like since I'm taking that warm shower, it would make I guess my muscles a little bit more pliable.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I would just do it like after the shower, and then at night I would do it but like while I'm in bed.
Okay, so after your shower, was that more in the morning or like right after you woke up?
Oh yeah, I usually just wake up and then shower right away.
Okay, gotcha. So morning and at night, and then you stretched after every game, and
Yep.
then you stopped basically based upon how you felt when you were
Hmm.
playing on a regular basis. Okay. Okay, yeah. So I met with you the first day, and then I wanted to do a quick like follow up, literally 3 days after, just to really see how you were doing, see if you had any questions. It was pretty short because I wanted to see if you were able to implement some of the things into your day, and you killed it. I think you easily did everything that I asked you to. You ordered everything that I asked you to. You noticed that you improved a little bit in the coordination.
Yep.
And then right after that, we set up 2 weeks for you to just handle it on your own. Um, with you understanding really what you needed to do on a day-to-day basis. And with that, we got to 3 weeks later, which was I think December 24th. So it was after Winter Royale.
Yep.
And this was good because I remember asking you how many games or how many regions that you played for Winter Royale. So why don't you tell me? I think it was day one. How many regions did you play?
Pretty sure I played all of them.
So what? That was like 12 hours, right?
Yeah, probably around that.
So it's 12 hours. Yeah. Okay. So I think it was like 4 OC, 4 East, EU, and West.
Yeah.
And then same thing, or no, day 2 and day 3 it was no OCE, right?
Yeah, no OC.
So still like 9 to 10 hours. And then how did you feel after that?
It really wasn't as bad as I expected, honestly. I felt pretty fine. Like I feel like I could just keep playing, but
Yeah,
yeah.
awesome. And then I guess before you went into Winter Royale, what do you feel like your level of coordination and everything was?
I was probably honestly back to normal. Like I felt pretty confident, and I would just wake up and I wouldn't have those days where I would just like feel like I couldn't move my wrists or fingers at all.
Awesome. And on those days too, why don't you go over like anything that you did in terms of exercise? You know, did you stretch between and stuff like that?
Yeah, I just honestly I didn't really change much. I just kind of just did the same thing that I was doing before, with the regarding like exercises and routine. Because
Okay.
I didn't want to stop because I didn't know if it would get bad again if I stopped. So.
Perfect. Okay. So even on the match days, did you do it at night also?
No, I only did it in the morning because I didn't want to
Gotcha.
overdo it.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? So I think that's smart because on the days that we play more, obviously we're using our muscles and our tendons and our hands a lot more. So we're not trying to overload it for the next day, right? And I remember one of the things that you noticed too in the very beginning was that if you rested for an hour, it would feel like worse sometimes, or sometimes the next day it would feel a little more stiff. So this is like important for a lot of people to understand that, you know, what you do on a daily basis is obviously going to affect how you feel, especially with tendon issues. So I'm glad that you said that. What are some of the things you're continuing to do now?
I'm still just doing the normal regular exercises and stretches, but um I'm only really doing them. I'm not doing them every day. I'm only doing them like once every other day now, and it's
Right.
starting to feel fun.
Good. Um, do you have a plan on how you're going to be approaching future events? So let's say they announce, hopefully like FNCS solos, right? What
Mhm.
are they gonna? What are you gonna do if that happens?
Um, Honestly, I probably wouldn't really change much. It's going good now, so I don't really
Yeah,
want to change anything.
for sure. I think something to consider too is that let's say we know there's something that's gonna come up. We can even create small seasons or cycles,
Yeah,
understanding that hey, this is a little preseason. Maybe I'll just do it 3 to 4 days in a row. This building up to it so that I have a little more endurance the weeks before, and then I just maintain during the actual high volume season. So I
yeah.
think that's something to consider for the future, right? For when
Hmm.
World Cup comes along, you want to be able to play X amount of hours, whatever, 10 to 15 hours on a consistent basis or consistently train, right? Obviously, quality is important too, but definitely volume and repetitions are pretty important in Fortnite for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, okay, and I guess one of the other things that I wanted to ask too was, um, do you have any sort of tips that you would recommend for anyone else maybe dealing with a little bit of pain or something similar?
I would honestly just recommend to not overdo it. I know like when you're young, you just kind of want to just play like 12 hours a day, and like I would do the same thing, but it's just not worth it, really. Like you just have to make sure to know when to stop and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's definitely a really important thing to realize. When did you start playing?
Just Fortnite in general,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
probably at
Season
the
one?
beginning, season two, I think at the beginning.
Damn, nice. So you've seen a lot of the changes, and was it a pretty
Yeah.
big grind in the very beginning, or what has it been up and down?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. I don't know. Everything felt the same. I still love Fortnite the same. Nothing's really changed.
Gotcha, gotcha. So you played. Um, I guess. I guess one thing that I wanted to ask too is like if there's someone that's kind of grinding right now, they're not yet in the Prac Cord or something, but they're almost there.
Hmm.
What would you recommend them in terms of not only like maintaining their health, but also just general tips or advice for them?
Um, Honestly, the way the practice is right now is like the tournaments aren't exactly the same as practice. So you have to really like the best practice you're gonna get is just playing the tournament itself. So every tournament you play, you just have to learn from that, and like just make sure that you do well in the tournaments if you want to get in the Prac Cord, because that's basically what it's based on.
Gotcha. How do you um, like review or learn yourself when you play like a cash cup or you play whatever? What's your
Um,
method of making sure that you improve every time?
I always go back and VOD review. I look at my replays and stuff, but sometimes you like when you look back at your VOD review, you don't really look at just like, oh, this is why I died. You also look back and see like what I could have did to prevent it. Like maybe I should have rotated a little bit earlier, and then I wouldn't have even been in that spot or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So I also noticed that there's this one thing, at least specifically with Fortnite, right? The meta is continually changing, even with building, right? Like tunneling. I think I saw
Hmm.
something today. There's a new tunnel, like a diagonal tunnel where it's like three mats or something like that with a cone.
Yeah.
Um, how do you approach that? Do you feel like it's always important to stay up to date, or can you
Um,
make do with just the previous tunneling that you've
I feel
learned?
like honestly, since the mat meta right now, you have to really, really conserve mats. Like, yeah, it's good to learn all like the really good new tarps, but you really don't use them that much often, unless like it's like really, really like a really small tarp. So like the floor stair, and in that case, like you'd use a lot of that. But
Gotcha.
if you do like any of the crazy tarps with the crazy edits, it really doesn't transfer over to in game.
Gotcha. Gotcha. For someone that's like maybe almost Prac Cord level, like us, I guess maybe it's like contenders level.
Hmm.
What do you think is the most important thing to work on? Right? If we split it into mechanics plus game knowledge, and even within game knowledge, what would you say is probably the most important there?
Definitely game knowledge. You can really have the best mechanics in the game and not even get like top 1,000 in the tournament. It's like it's really all just game knowledge in these tournaments now. And obviously the mechanics in this meta really, really help, but game knowledge is basically the biggest thing in my
What
opinion.
do you mean specifically within game knowledge though?
Just like knowing when to fight, when to rotate, like where to rotate in zone, what side of the map is congested, stuff like that.
Mm, how do you suggest people learn about that?
Just really VOD reviewing and seeing like what you did wrong in certain scenarios. So like yeah, just stuff like that.
Yeah, how often do you review, I guess, other people's VODs?
Oh, every day. When we're playing scrims and stuff, like after the scrims, I'll look and see like who's doing good this day and I'll try to learn from what they did.
Awesome, awesome. I think that's, yeah, I actually remember, like, I was actually in the Prac Cord for like a week and I got purged. But, but I remember back then, like, I was so into it. I would be looking
Yeah.
up River Songs and Psalms and everyone's VODs to learn how to rotate, to figure out what sort of unique mechanics they're using to engage or even disengage, how they rotate. I
Yeah.
mean, I love learning about that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I think that's cool and super helpful for, I'm sure, a lot of aspiring pros. Maybe if there's anything, I guess, final that you want to leave off with anyone watching or in the entire community, you can. Here's your free time to let everyone know
Um
it.
yeah, well I just want to say thank you to everybody for just everybody, just all my like supporters and stuff like that. But I would just say the biggest thing that I want to leave off on just for like just competitive people and people that want to make it in competitive is like a lot of times people die, they just blame it on, you know, like, oh, RNG and stuff like that. But there's always a way out of a situation most of the time. So you always just want to like make sure that you really look back and see what you could have did, because every single game you can probably learn something.
Nice. I love that, man. You have a super mature mindset and mentality, man. I love that. And
Thank you.
yeah, I hope to see you kill it on the next whatever, in the next World Cup, in the next FNCS. And then yeah, thanks again for hopping on to do this to help everyone else sort of learn a little more.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's
yeah.
awesome.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you want to see more of this type of content, let me know in the comments, in the description. Like, comment, subscribe, share with anyone you feel like this might be helpful for, and I'll see you guys again soon.